Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here with an update for the Thea 3 Spin to Win split shot build here. As you can see, there's been some minor improvements to the build. We're up to 2 trillion DPS. And a big part of this is really because we've just gotten a lot of our gear finally together, but also because in the last 2 days we have made pretty much more money in the season in terms of flame elementium than we had the previous rest of the season. So to give you an idea, basically last stream we dropped 10,000 FE worth of Kismets. So we all at one time basically. And we dropped 2 of the fish in a bottles. I wonder if I can find them here somewhere. And basically a fish in a cage. So these each sold for 5,000 FE. And our taxes basically went from 14,000 to 30,000. Yeah, so that's pretty good. This has kind of allowed us to get a lot of different upgrades. So I want to go through all of the gear and talk about everything and kind of hope to bridge a gap between somebody who is just starting to play the build and somebody who's looking to aim towards endgame. Because we pretty much got almost a week's worth of upgrades between the last video. So I kind of just want to go a little bit more in depth than I normally do. So starting off right off the bat, the things that I think you do need automatically to play the build. Obviously, you need the 2 supports for split shot. I talked about these before, and these are rapid advance and diversion. If you don't have these 2, pretty much cannot play the build. And then you just need a bow, and you need a slate somewhere that's providing you with 100% fizz converted to erosion. If you do not have this, you're not doing erosion damage, which means you can't apply deterioration, which is our whole scaling thing. Next thing you probably should look to get is probably a blight chest here. And blight, for the most part, I think is a pretty cheap legendary for how much power it provides. It's 140 right now. And I see a lot of people talking about how they think that they need this 3rd modifier, corrupted. And that's going to be more expensive. You don't need that, especially not right off the bat. I haven't gotten one of these yet myself. Because pretty much what this does is going to give us 16 times 8 multiplier for deterioration damage. So it makes deterioration go from being a 60% of our hit to being a 136% of our hit, which makes it, a bigger slice of the pie than everything else. And so deterioration down here, for example, where we get deterioration damage, becomes a pretty big multiplier for our damage here. And so it is totally fine to get this modifier here because getting deterioration damage on your trinkets, this doesn't really come into ultimate mods. So unless you're getting deterioration damage on slates, it's pretty difficult to get it. And so this is a pretty great spot to get it. Next up, I'm talking about gloves real quick because Death's Touch right now is super insane. This thing will basically double your damage once you put it on. It's just 121% additional base damage for 2-handed weapons. Just absolutely bonkers. Has flat, has attack speed, has life on it, but it also sets your crit rating of your weapon to 400, which is kind of a negative here. Now, ideally, you would get this 3rd mod here, corroded, which makes it so that it's now plus additional crit. But these gloves, I think, are just really worth saving up and getting. But you can kind of calculate how much of an advantage they're going to give you, just because they're going to basically give you 100% more damage. And so if that's reasonably expensive for you, you can go and do that. But if there's other things you can buy first, don't feel like you have to farm for days to get these gloves. You can probably improve other things like your hero memories, candles, slates, other gear before going for these. Now, other gloves that you probably could think about doing, if you could go and do here, let's clear this. You could go and do, so we have stray birds, which I know a lot of people talk about here, and I have used these before. I don't think that these are really all that great. You don't really notice it too much while clearing. They basically shoot out their projectiles, and the projectiles come back to you. It looks really pretty. But the problem is that the split shot right now has a shotgunning mechanic. And they recently kind of accidentally nerfed and bugged this, and then they brought it back. As we can see here, as I'm just spinning and winning, we're chilling at about 2.5 trillion DPS. But if I go and I get inside the monster, the damage is going to go up kind of significantly here. And so it's kind of important to be able to take advantage of this, especially if you're looking to do the boss conquest here to go and push up the tiers so you can level up your town and the seize mechanic, and stray birds kind of prevent that from happening. And so what you can do instead is use these malice gloves. Malice gloves I think are absolutely ridiculous right now. They're probably kind of underpriced, if you could say. A lot of these, like even the ones that have the best mod on here, corroded, are pretty cheap. So like if I go here and do 55%, we can see here that I can get like 55% more deterioration damage if I've dealt a crit recently for 60 FE. You just remember that that's like effectively more than half of our damage there. So we can almost call that like 30% damage increase on a glove for pretty cheap. That's definitely more affordable than the Death's Touch gloves for sure. Valerie's Night Stroll I kind of think is good and bad, especially early on. This really wants you to apply blur somehow. The best way to do that is to get wilt on hit with our spin to win. However, passivization here prevents you from being able to apply wilt with the skill, and so it's kind of difficult to get blur from wilt that way. You get blur on kill, which is pretty nice. I think that these boots are maybe end game for me, simply because it's just pretty darn strong to have stealth stab active all of the time. It does give you less damage taken, does give you more damage. I might switch over to like a crafted pair of boots, maybe ones that convert all physical into like elemental or whatever it is. Those would probably be very expensive though, and especially because you have to get them dreamed on as well. So that's pretty ridiculous. And so I think these boots are pretty darn good. And we're going to find ways to apply wilt. Talk about wilt spike tech a little bit later in the video, but that's something to think about. Next up, let's talk about rings. And I should have started the video with this because people always ask about this ring. Is this ring required? Is it mandatory? Do I have to have this? No. N-O, period. This ring is not mandatory at all. Is the 4 max channel stacks good? Yes. Is it better probably than a priceless ring? No, I don't believe so. I've spent a lot of time in the spreadsheets and the calculator and a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't believe that this is going to outperform a priceless ring, and so I'll probably be getting rid of it pretty soon here. But the +4 max channel stacks is just pretty nice, and when I was playing Mind Control, for some reason chat convinced me to corrode it, and so this rolled from a 3 max channel to a 4, and here we are. That's really the main reason we have it on. The elemental res, the defense is nice, the movement speed doesn't really bother us all that much as we move around with our blink bow, and that's pretty much it. For our other rings, we're pretty much going to be getting deterioration damage, additional main hand weapon, deterioration chance, max energy shield, crit, and fire res. Now the thing is, without ultimates, you're not going to get that deterioration damage or the max or the main hand weapon. So you can get things like dexterity here, another res, you know, stuff that's going to actually help you out here. And then for our bow over here, you can start off with the Mountain Howling bow. Probably once you can start getting a priceless bow, you want to look for something that has probably like penetration here is pretty good for either erosion pen or for armor. I think that is very good. Probably the best modifiers in order are probably percentage physical high roll for the gear, probably tied with lucky hit on bow, and then the flat fizz here being probably third place with like armor and elemental erosion penetration kind of sharing a tier with them. So I think there's lots of different good bows out there that you can do. Obviously you can dream on percentage fizz, you can dream on lucky hit or lucky crit, sorry, and you can also dream on flat fizz. All of these are good. We're completely avoiding doing any sort of blessing stacking because blessings are kind of a bless with a curse on them. Since we lose the blessing when we have it on our gear, that's kind of a bad thing. Like focus blessing gives us more damage, agility blessing gives us more damage and more attack speed, which is pretty important, and tenacity blessings can help us stay alive in the pretty rippy end game. And so, and also it only increases damage to targets that have desecration on them, and so you pretty much end up having really weird feeling clear where it's like the white monsters feel like the boss, and then the boss feels like it dies pretty quick, but then you can't get to the boss because all of the white monsters are in the way, and so it just feels pretty darn bad. And so I just prefer not focusing on blessings for this particular reason. Lastly, let's talk about our amulet and our belt here. amulet here, we moved up to a priceless. We got a corruption curse. I just bought one that had corruption curse on it because I couldn't be bothered to roll for it myself. We're getting deterioration damage here and fervor as our ultimates. Now you can kind of cheese having fervor if you don't, have the money to do a priceless amulet here. You can see right now I do not have fervor. And what you can actually do is you can go and briefly install focus shot, because this makes it so that you gain fervor and fervor rating. And so all we have to do is shoot one time. Fervor is now active, and then I can just switch right back to split shot and spin away. And as long as I'm killing normal enemies or hitting elites, the fervor rating will stay up. So this is really great for the dragon. You can go and do that real quick. A single hit. You will have to redo it if you die. This will give you quite a bit of crit chance, which is just pretty nice to have. And so that's what we have on our amulet here. Deterioration damage, obviously very good damage there. That's multiplying it's a kind of a post-hit multiplier for our build. And then critical strike damage, lightning resist, and projectile speed. Projectile speed goes into our blind vision, also goes into gale, which is pretty good. I have not yet touched my candles at all. I have not really touched these at all. These are the same ones I've had pretty much since I, got candles at the start of the season, which kind of sucks. I did make some changes here for the split shot. The attack focus here, this gives us a little bit more crit rating, which is pretty nice. I don't believe that this by itself will just give us fervor, but previously I did have to use faster attack speed because you do want to get to the point here where you are at 15 attacks a second. If you are lower than this, your damage is going to be significantly lower. 15 attacks per second is a pretty big breakpoint because it pretty much means that you're going to be putting a lot of attacks out at the same time. And if you go below 15, it goes down. I don't know how to describe that any better, sorry. Also for the weapon here, I get a lot of questions for this. Right now my suffixes are not done, and you really shouldn't copy them one-to-one, but we're all physical on the prefixes. Nothing else here is good. You just want to get all physical prefixes. And then for the suffixes, for ultimate, there's two options you can go. Additional projectile damage or additional damage applied to life. Both of these are kind of okay. However, additional projectile damage is a little bit better because additional damage applied to life is an additive multiplier with other sources of it. So if you have it on slates, that's kind of bad. And then for down here, we're going to be getting gear attack speed, which is pretty good. And then we're going to be probably replacing this physical damage here with critical strike damage. We could also potentially go critical strike rating for this gear if we do get Death's Touch, or critical strike rating just raw as well. But we'll probably end up going critical strike damage at the end of the day. And so that's pretty much what the bow is going to be looking like here. Next up, let's talk about some of the things that kind of unlocked as we progressed here. Oh, I forgot to mention on the belt here. So the belt also is a little bit little bit up in the air, something that we're kind of working on here. So I got a belt that gives us immune to paralysis and blinding. I'm not sure if this is the best for deep space. However, getting immune to paralysis is pretty nice because they'll apply some really gnarly paralysis mods, which make you take 75% damage more sometimes. Also, blinding is pretty popular. There's a always being blinded type of thing, which reduces your damage. Problem is too, if you have 20% chance to miss, we're missing with our main attack. We're also missing with our wilt spike a lot more, which we'll talk about there, which is a pretty big impactor on our damage. We're going with dirty tricks because this allows us to apply all of our ailments, which is pretty nice. We're already were applying a lot of ailments before, and now we're just taking it one step further, and we're pretty much doing all of them. And this is going to help our wilt spike, which I'm promising you we're going to get to the wilt spike. For the rest of the belt here, we're going to be going for additional damage at low mana, deterioration chance, elemental resistance, all with a chance to avoid, I think is pretty good, and then 2 other reses. I am still kind of doing the math a little bit between max channel stacks and deterioration damage here. I'm not 100% positive. I'll have to probably be in the final version of the build, but I just happened to click this. I think I clicked this one time and I got the low mana, and I clicked this one time and I got the max channel stacks. So here we are for now. I'm not necessarily sure if that's going to be the end game. Also, by the way, if you want to put dirty tricks on here, you have to level up your Sky Oasis and then blend that on, or potentially buy this from somebody else. Now, let's talk about some of the stuff that's kind of unlocked from our different gear upgrades. Since we have a curse now on our amulet, Corruption Curse, obviously we could drop Corruption off of our skills, which allowed us to get Wilt Spike. And Wilt Spike is absolutely filthy of an upgrade here for a couple of different reasons. So Wilt Spike on its own will give you a buff here for 5 stacks of this buff, and each buff gives you 3% multiplicative erosion damage, which is like around 15% more damage. However, we're going to kind of change that to, with Languish here, this is a perfect support. It makes it so it gives you 7.2% damage per stack for deterioration. So that's like 36% multiplicative deterioration damage. That's not 36% more damage because it doesn't affect our hit, but it does affect our deterioration, so that is pretty big. And then over here, we get for every stack of wilt inflicted by the supported skill recently, 1% additional deterioration damage and 0.2% additional deterioration duration. And that duration doesn't really matter, but this is 80% more, 80% more deterioration damage. And so when I calculated this out, this was giving me 105% more damage if we could get the whole thing to stack all the way up, which we're doing right now. And the way that we do that is we have activation medium rhythm, and it needs to be a 0.2, which makes this very expensive. And what this does, it just triggers the skill all of the time. We don't really care about all of the rest of it. We just care about this first line being a 0.2. And you can kind of see like our Wilt Spike just flying out there all of the time and attacking, even though we're not really doing anything. It's just applying wilt. And we can also see here that we're keeping a nice steady 20 stacks of wilt. That lets me know that we're keeping up our buff from the support. If it like was lower than 20, that means we're not applying all of our wilt all of the time. Now, before you have dirty tricks, you can kind of make this work by using improved corrosion support here. This gives you a chance to apply an additional stack of wilt. It also gives you increased chance to apply wilt. So you have 30% from here, another 20% from our corruption curse. This has 20% on its baseline, so that does have pretty high chance to apply. And then each shadow here from Haunt has a can apply its own stack, and so we can keep that up pretty easily. But this is kind of something that you really can't switch to until you have room for it. So either like you don't have +1 curse from pet or candle, or have a curse on a piece of trinket or something, and then you can afford the very expensive rhythm here to get this all set up. I would not do this until like later into the build. This is definitely something that's a little bit funky. However, since this does apply so much wilt, it makes getting blur a breeze. You just get one of those slates that applies blur when you apply stacks of wilt, which is pretty nice. Now, for doing the dragon, we're also going to switch in centralized loading. Most of the time, I'm just chilling on blink arrow, though. This is pretty nice. We get a little bit of attack and cast speed after using it, which is not really a big deal. We also get emergency avoidance, which gives us more evasion for moving around, which does help out a little bit. Likewise, aim is kind of nice for like min-maxing your damage a little bit. It does reduce our attack speed, but because we can pretty much move around with blink bow most of the time, this is not that big of a deal. Once we have our second curse going up, I'm probably going to replace timid with aim full time. Although if I need more defenses, I just put on frost shield instead. I still need to upgrade the supports here and get them up to like tier 0 or something, and then level them up to 5 stars. For auras, precise projectile is really good, gives us damage and gives us projectile speed, which is more damage, which is nice. Cruelty gives us a bunch of damage, and then the sub effect here pretty much doubles this effect here, so that is pretty darn nice. Precise swiftness, this gives us a little bit more movement speed. You could potentially swap this out for something else. And then we're putting acuteness imbue here, which gives us physical damage onto our life. This does give us trauma. So we get trauma, we have fire. And then from our passives, we are getting the lightning and the cold, so that we can pretty much apply all of the different afflictions on enemies pretty darn easily. Right now, my slates really haven't changed too much, but we have gotten a couple of new slate upgrades. Currently my pedigree is not all that great. Attack skill level beyond cure, pretty darn good. But there's a lot of things you can get here. There are a lot of different things that you can get that is pretty nice. I can kind of show you my search for this real quick. No, I don't like showing off my searches, but if you see here, pretty much all of these things are kind of okay to get on your slate for pedigree. And so you can look for one that has 2 of these, and there certainly will be some options in the room. Some of these are going to be pretty expensive. Some of them are going to be less expensive. Some of them, I don't really know how good falling leaves are. Stuff like this is not super duper great, but at least it is some damage compared to nothing at all. So I think there's definitely some slate opportunities for you. We also have a couple of things here that are pretty important. Once again, the fizz to erosion is pretty important. We have one of these chance to paralyze from Goddess of Deception. I rolled a whole bunch for this to get that. This is pretty good to have. Additional damage when sealed mana and life, additional damage against curse, additional damage applied to life, all of that stuff. This is an insane slate. I got pretty lucky there. We're 100% going to be kicking this slate out of the house though. The deterioration chance here was helping me kind of fix my deterioration chance when I didn't have priceless trinkets, but now we're like 12% above the cap now of 100% chance. So this is going to go bye. They're probably going to be keeping this one here with the blur, additional damage applied to life. We have a little bit of crit damage. We might keep rolling that a little bit. Sealed mana compensation, all skill levels. These both help quite a bit as well. And then we have a slate here that's giving us additional deterioration damage, more afflicted paralysis effect, and some other good stuff there. And then this slate here has an agility blessing, additional damage applied to life. I kind of want to kick this one out as well because I don't really think this is a great one to copy if I go end up doing a prairie. Also, I don't really like the blessing there at all either, but it's kind of just what we have for now. If you watched my video where we talk about using some fallen starlights here to get us like immunity to trauma or ignite or helping with the wilt damage, pretty much what I've been doing is just kicking this slate out and then putting in whichever slate I need, like so, moving it over, and then bada bing, bada boom, having a sparks of moth flame hit this 90% ignite damage. Pretty much makes it so that you don't take any damage. I haven't really tested with the wilt thing yet, but I believe that we could probably end up using this. Just put it on one of my micros, and that would more than cover any of the issues that we're having there. I think that we might need 100% wilt damage reduction in order to not really take damage from it, but I haven't really done all of the testing for that just yet. And besides that, I think that like slates for the most part is something I'm going to probably be working on soon. Not something that I've like really spent too much on yet. And for my pack spirit stuff, I literally have 0 destinies in at all. There's still a lot of damage to be missing here. A lot of like survivability. Probably getting some different kismets to like pump up the defense. Because right now we can like go and do deep space. It's not really all that hard. The defense is kind of the hard part. A lot of enemies can just like straight up one-shot you, or they all like applying those debuffs from the other video, like the Giga Trauma or the Giga Ignite, which kind of just insta-murders you if you don't have immunity to them, which I kind of like. I think that it's nice to have things that you kind of have to build your character around a little bit that are not just like the boss does more damage and is a little bit tankier, because then that kind of becomes like just more of the same. So for them coming at us at a different angle, I think is pretty darn nice. What else? I think that's pretty much it for right now for the build. I feel like I kind of rambled a whole bunch here. Things that we'll be working on is just finishing out getting tier 0s and stuff, and probably replacing this ring with a ring that kind of looks a lot like this, although 100% finished up. I need to probably re-roll the flat here into lucky crit and just get more crit chance and stuff. Like our hero memories here are still lagging behind a little bit, so probably looking for things like projectile speed and maybe some like spell block or something, and then critical strike chance, critical strike damage, stuff like that. Just trying to like figure out the final steps of some of this gear. We're still kind of like working on things, but I think that this is definitely going to be SS20 viable. It's definitely deep space viable because I've been farming deep space pretty much yesterday. We'll be doing more of that today on stream. and hopefully just dropping a whole bunch more FE gear. So we can keep making some upgrades to the build, seeing how it goes. But hopefully this video kind of helped out a little bit. Let me know if you have any comments in the comments down below, and come by the stream. I'll answer some questions for you later.